All right, here we are in the man cave, alive. Finally shaved that shit off my face. I don't know how you guys do it. I can't do it. I think 2 weeks is the max I can go, and then I start to snap. Too itchy. Ugh. I don't like it when I'm sweating either in the bush. But anyway, quick note. So on Vancouver Island, we have a subspecies of elk, Roosevelt elk. They are absolutely freaking huge. Not normally have the largest antlers, but they have massive bodies, 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pound animals. They are freaking big. And it's a lottery ticket draw if you want to be able to have a chance at harvesting one. And I get a lot of messages from people every year with draw tags who have successfully drawn a tag for different species in BC, and I get a lot of invites to come and help. I love it because I love to film it. Obviously, I love to go and look for them all year round, especially the island elk. And people know that I spend a lot of time out there looking for them and filming them. Anyway, I knew of a big bull. We went out before we went up north, Sarah and I, my buddy, with the tuna boat, Jody. We went for a drive, and I glanced down to the forest, and I seen this elk that was absolutely huge. I couldn't get a camera on him or a better look at him, and so we started putting out trail cameras for him. And then we decided to get up this morning. Sarah and I, we got up very early and left in the dark, and we drove all the way out there, and if we didn't find him and called him in close, it was really fun, exciting, and really cool. So I'm going to share it. So I'll share with you guys a couple clips of that I saw here. I attempted to video out in the woods, but I forgot about the audio on the other camera, etc., etc. But I'll show you some of the sites right now, and then after that, I'm going to share some emails. Here you go. Okay, come on. Don't move. So common. Slowly, don't move your head. Stand up. Slow, stand up. Look at the screen. Oh my God. That for cool. And it's tough. We went down through the jungle after we walked away the first time, left him alone for half an hour, and then went down there and caught him in the river behind a cow, and the cow was taken off from the timber, and he was going after it, and I couldn't, at a DSLR camera, all manual everything, and I just could not get the tripod down and set up fast enough to get a good video of him. But I got a little bit of him there before we last had our eyes on him. Pretty cool. Poor Sarah didn't understand why we couldn't bring him home. We'll go back up north shortly. Now, who do we got? Who do we got? These are more continuation of people that have been waiting for a while, all right? And I will be getting... All right, I'll stop babbling now. Let's just get into hearing these voices that have been waiting to be heard. This is titled Possible Puzzle Piece. Hi, Steve. I've been watching your YouTube channel for some time, since 2019. Man, time flies. Hold on. Thank you for sharing the voices of the people. I really appreciate your delivery and the no bullshit attitude. We need more people like you. I'm a fellow hunter from South Africa, but I've been residing in the Netherlands the past 2 years with my wife and daughter. Thanks for the kind words, man. This is a short email with an important puzzle piece that recently became clear to me, and I wish to share with everyone. Also, my receipts are added as links below. There's been a few emails you read that mention quantum physics and a possible way to explain how these beings travel and do what they do. I'll try and explain this as simple as possible. We have photons, or in layman's terms, light, and we have protons, or in layman's terms, particles around us. When light, photons, collides with protons / things around us, it creates matter. This matter exists while it is observed, and then returns to light when it is not observed anymore. This is similar to the experiments taking place at the Large Hadron Collider in Europe. There's also a common theory called the wave collapse theory, where everything exists in wave form until it is observed. Once observed, it manifests out of the wave form as a physical particle. Wow, this is sounding like it's going to explode my head. Now, how does this link up with the forest people's abilities? Many people have written in stating that when they encountered a forest person and locked eyes on them, that the forest person just wanted to get away. I think a possible reason why the forest people try and get away is because when we stare at them, we lock them in place, similar to the wave collapse theory. Sounds possible and probable to me, because I've always thought that when our eyes hit them, they can't escape our gaze. Well, then again, they have been noted as disappearing before some eyeballs, including some scientists. So who knows? So, because they are being observed by the person encountering them, they are unable to return to the wave form. Other dimension, ? In layman's terms, they are then not able to go and will stay on our physical plane because they are being observed. This might also explain how a large forest person can step behind a small tree and just disappear. Behind the tree, he is not being observed and can dematerialize back into the wave form. But on the other hand, they might just seem to want to get away because they do not want to be part of the shit show going down in recent times with us humans. No doubt. I do believe that we also have the same abilities as these beings, but we are stuck in this labor camp, and our true potential is intentionally kept from us by the evil powers in control. Absolutely agree. You know what I'm talking about. The effing entity. Sorry for my French. Apologies if I confuse anyone, and I also stand to be corrected. Here are my receipts. I hope the information can add to someone else's puzzle. Take care and be safe. Cheers. Jacko Visagi. I hope I didn't butcher your name, sir. I'm going to try this way, and if I can, you guys, screenshot it if you want to type it in and do some due diligence, all right? How do we do this? All right, there you go. Screenshot it if you want to look into it. Screenshot, all right? Got it? Screenshot it, and then hit it. Appreciate you, man. I absolutely appreciate that. And that absolutely makes frickin' sense to me, everything you noted there. Do I know that to be as absolute truth? No, not yet. But it sure makes sense to me if that is legit. Now, who do we got here? Mark, this is red. This is titled Why I Think the Government Doesn't Want Us to Know About Sasquatch. I don't know if you have read or listened to these books I'm going to recommend. Keeping humans distracted and infighting each other over bullshit probably has something to do with the UFOs or, quote, sky people, end quote. Personally, I think it all has to do with the hybrid program. Most abductions, if not all, specifically done by the group everyone calls the Greys, has a genetic component. It's like they're part of our unified pop culture as a joke and hiding in plain sight. No doubt. Please read or at least recommend Jacques Vallée's, quote, Invisible College, end quote, and David Jacobs', quote, The Threat, end quote. You talk about wanting to clean house in our politics, and I sympathize with you. I feel the same way. I find it odd that we were on this seemingly runaway technology revolution for a while, and then we just shuddered. We were doing big things in physics. Now it seems like all we were doing is in technology that spies on us by entertaining us or just spies on us. Social media and surveillance. I know I'm not the only one that feels like a noose is being tightened. And it may have something to do with this clandestine abduction thing. And it's a massive program with a huge infrastructure. It has to be. It always has a genetic component for hybrids. Check out those books. If you read my emails, just call me Kay. No need to mention my channel or anything like that. I like your channel and keep up the good work. Please read those books. We need more people like you, but something tells me once they get into office, they are read in and locked in. This cover-up is established and entrenched. It'll be a tough nut to crack, but it's obviously going on. I said this on a podcast once. I don't know when or how, but someday the Sasquatch, they might need us as we might need them. Maybe. Okay, here is the cover of the first book mentioned. Ready? Screenshot it. The Threat, David M. Jacobs, PhD. It's the first book mentioned. And here's the second one, The Invisible College. Ready? Screenshot that one. There you go. Yeah, I could probably talk forever about the shit show going on. I have talked about it a lot in the past on this channel. I've also obviously vented my frustration with a lot of people when it comes to this topic and more due to their lack of intelligence when they continue to just concentrate on trail cameras, dermal ridges, and mid-tarsal breaks. When meanwhile, this topic is one of the easiest ones to possibly be the gateway to teaching humans absolute truth and showing us all that we're being lied to about everything. All right? I'm a broken record, I know. Here's another one. Just My Drop in the Bucket is the title of this email. I think these are all recents. Hello, Steve. You can use my name. My name is Chad Winford. I wasn't born with any F's to give, so I wouldn't know one if I had one. I was born and raised in a fairly small town of Osceola, Arkansas. It's in northeast Arkansas along the Mississippi River. Currently, I'm a month shy of 48 years old, and my first experience is when I was around 8 or 9 years old. Honestly, I can't pinpoint the year, but thereabouts. It was New Year's Eve, and every year as a kid, I had an aunt and uncle that lived south of Osceola, about 6 or 7 miles, in an area called Driver. Basically nowhere, USA, and they would throw a big get-together for family and friends for New Year's each day. My uncle would buy a shit ton of fireworks for the kids, and it was just all day. And through the night of cooking, drinking, and kids running wild out in the country, having a blast riding three-wheelers and doing normal kid shit, while the adults would fellowship and switch out supervising us. Well, this particular year, there was a severe weather warning with rain and thunderstorms forecasted, so the normally packed event was reduced down to all the people that could fit in the old farmhouse my aunt and uncle lived in. So, I'm in the house, just working the rooms, catching up on the grown folk gossip and shit talk. And at this point, I'm just guessing because I was young and at time didn't matter, but I'm thinking it was probably 10, 11 p.m. I do know it was before midnight, and the ball hadn't dropped on the TV to bring in the new year, but I was coming from the kitchen, going down the hallway, heading to the living room where the men folk were hanging out, and just past the living room was a double door that led into a den area that my relatives didn't normally use because there was only 3 people normally living there. But that room was opened up to accommodate the people that were there that night. That was a long sentence. The main light in the den was off, but the desk light was on. I remember this because my aunt asked me to turn on the desk lamp and turn off the main light because people were starting to dwindle. This was prior to me being in the kitchen area. Straight ahead into the den was a double window, basically 2 windows installed side by side. Just your basic 3-foot by 4-footish windows butted up beside one another. My old mini blinds on the windows didn't exactly just fit right. I remember going back and looking at them, and they were just about a half shy on each side of the covering, the window glass itself on both windows. And I say that to say this. As I was walking down the hallway to the living room, I remember lightning striking outside. And it was one of the strikes where the lightning just kept illuminating for a few seconds. That's when I saw it. The lightning struck, lit up the window, and this massive figure was standing just outside these 2 windows, and I could see it stand up as if it was bent over, slightly looking through the small gap in the blinds, and it seen me looking at it. I remember the most intense fear coming over me that I've never experienced since. I pissed down both my legs and was in a state of panic that apparently freaked out a house full of rednecks, and all I could utter was, "Big man," and point to the window. And the house cleared out with guns in hand, running around the house ready to unload on something. I really don't remember much after that as far as the experience. I remember watching the ball drop on TV for the new year, but it was all just weird for me after seeing what I saw. Several years later, I went to work for that same uncle on his farm during the summer break, and I asked him about that night, and he instantly started talking about it. He remembered it vividly and how I reacted to what I saw, and he said they went out in the storm that night searching the property and never seen anyone, but he did see very large, deep footprint-like impressions in the ground around that window, and as it ran off, but the tracks disappeared. I asked him what he thought it was, and his reply was, "I don't know. But whatever it was effing big to leave those tracks that it did." I went back to the old farmhouse as a young teen, and as I was still thinking about this thing I saw that night, so I got to looking at the old house as it was built up off the ground about 3 feet. About 3 feet from the floor to the bottom of the window, and about 4 feet tall, about a 4-foot tall window. That's round about 10 feet. And I remember seeing a few inches of space between the top of the window and the top of its head, and it was nearly as wide as those 2 windows side by side. I know what I saw that night. The image is still very crisp in my mind nearly 40 years later. That's the only time I've seen it, but I'm sure I've felt its presence a couple times since. One other experience that I had was when I had gotten permission to deer hunt a strip of land behind the levee, between the levee and the Mississippi River. I had to park and walk in a pretty good little piece to get to the spot I wanted to hunt. It was around 4 a.m. when I parked, probably around 4:30 by the time I got in, and settled in this little lean-to blind. I was sitting there in the pitch black, 9mm on my hip, Ruger 7mm laying across my lap, just listening and chilling, waiting on daylight. I could hear critters stirring around here and there, but I didn't think anything of it. I was just hoping it wasn't deer that was sniffing me out, and then I heard very big, heavy footsteps, 2-legged with long stride footsteps. At first I was pissed because I thought someone else was walking in on me. Then it sounded like it was on both sides of me coming up from behind, which was the direction I came in, and then everything went completely silent. I can't even put into words how quiet it was. Then the immense fear set in. I was trying to calm my heart rate and breathing, but it was ramped up to 10 and I couldn't figure out why. I grabbed the bolt on my rifle to chamber a round, and this voice that sounded like my voice, or at least how I hear my voice when I speak, and it said, "No." And I took my hand off the bolt, and I still don't understand why I did that. I reached for my headlamp, and the same voice said, quote, "You must leave now," end quote. I got up, turned the direction I came, turned on my headlamp, praying nothing was standing there, and I skipped my ass out of those woods. I remember the sound coming back once I got closer to the levee. Once I got back to the truck, I put my gear in the back, rifle up front, and remember sticking the key in the ignition. Then apparently I fell asleep or just passed out or something. I don't remember. But I woke up a couple hours later and it was good and daylight out. Possibly an adrenaline dump? A Jedi mind trick? Hell, who knows? But anyway, thanks for the platform and getting people's experiences out there, and be safe, sir. To be the man, quote, "To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!" End quote, Ric Flair. There you go. Welcome to the club, my man. Another member of the club. I don't doubt for a second that you saw what you saw. Not a chance do I doubt you for a second. Because imagine if we knew the number of how many people know about this truth in the world today. I wonder what the number is. Is it in the millions? What do you think? I think it is in the millions, myself. I think it's in the millions. This next email is titled "Years, an Account Documented." Hey Steve, you expressed an interest in documenting my years of accounts with the mountain people. Let's get it on video and get it done. I'm ready and interested, and my wife wants it documented, as do I. Born and raised in the Seven Devils and Hell's Canyon. We never know about the next month or a year. Let's get her done. I'm sure we'll get along, as well as some good hunting stories added in. Tracker, Alabama. All right. Well, if I forget to get a hold of you, because I'm not quite sure who I'm talking to right now, sounds interesting to me. Email me again if I don't get a hold of you, all right? Please. Tracker. Maybe I'll hopefully try to find you in my inbox and see who you may be. I'm down. Oh, John B., are you still here, my man? My brain's starting to fire properly again since I've been back from my 2 months straight of chaos. But I'm going to get a hold of you real quick, too, to do what we were planning on doing, all right, man? Hope you're still with us, safe and sound. This is titled Vent. All right, a lot of rep. We all like a good vent, especially me. Hello, Steve. I've been watching your channel for a few years now, and it's a great place to gain knowledge and truth on the subject of Bigfoot. I wanted to write in to vent a little, and this seems a place to do it. A while back, someone wrote in talking about painted rock in California. The pictographs at painted rock are sacred to the Yokut Indians, and have been there for 1,000 years or better. When the tree knockers came through wanting to take pictures and were told no, they snuck in and did it anyway. I have some cousins on the res that would have loved to catch them in the act. Now these pictures are plastered all over the internet. Instead of talking to the tribe members or elders about the story the paintings they're telling, they chose to tell a story that was made up for monetary reasons. Maybe to get views or whatever. The tree knockers came through and desecrated something sacred, then told a story with a forked tongue. The big hairy man has been part of life growing up on the res. I remember my aunts telling us not to go to the river at night because the hairy man will take you. Or only play with a porch light, or the hairy man will get you. There's a lot of history at Painted Rock. I remember softball-sized holes in the smooth rocks where the Yokut women used to grind acorns and grain hundreds of years ago at the river's edge. There was so much more culture and stories about Bigfoot, but the tree knockers didn't even acknowledge it because they came in like thieves in the night. If they would have came to the Yokut people properly, they probably would have ended up with a book of stories. After I was told about the tree knockers, I hoped they would use the pictures showing respect for the Yokat Indians and the hairy man. I guess I should have known better. Thanks for letting me vent on your electric smoke signal. The smoke can be seen around the world. Yokat John. There you go, my man. Rant shared. It's too easy, right? Yeah, the tree knockers. You know, there's a lot of people who have dedicated a lot of their time and existence to, I'm going to be the first one to prove the existence. You got to admit, by this stage of the game, if you've been following this channel for any amount of time, the comedy in that at this stage of the game, right? But those people have been known to do a lot of dirtbag, sleazy things in the past, especially the leader of that BFRO crap place, right? And I'm not talking about all the people. I'm talking about the abusive piece of shit that trespassed, harassed, and tormented many innocent people. Documented with witnesses. I'll bite my lip. I don't know why. I shouldn't bite my lip. Now, let's hear somebody else, shall we? Let's talk about the important people, the good people. Get them all heard. Now, can your horses running around? My horses. There's no title in this email. Steve, my experience happened during a spring turkey hunt with my father, an older cousin. It took place in the early 2000s. First off, I live in New York State in the Hudson Valley. And this isn't my only experience with these things. Anyway, we're walking on a logging road using a hen call. We didn't hear or see any game, which was rare for this area. We continue walking on about 40 minutes into the hunt. This disgusting smell hit us. It was very musky and smelled like bad body odor. My dad said it was probably a bear. We kept walking on. We kept walking, and once we came around a bend in the logging road, we reached a clearing where the power line runs. We got up to the clearing, and we're walking and calling and taking our time when we noticed footprints in the high grass. There were no features in the prints. Couldn't see toes or dermal ridges due to it just being huge prints that pushed down the grass. We looked at the prints, and my dad even commented on the size of them. They were huge. But Sasquatch wasn't even on our minds, to be honest. Just assumed some other hunter was there before us and had a big boot. After that, we kept walking the trail, but had no luck. No gobbles, no deer, not even a squirrel. Fast forward 3 days. My dad and I returned, and when we got to the power lines, we noticed a huge area of the grass was ripped out. Some areas you could see the grass was ripped out with such force, clumps of earth came out with it. Other spots were ripped up with such force, the grass was all uneven and looked noticeably different than before. My dad and I looked over the area, scratched our heads, and kept hunting. I know it sounds crazy now, and trust me, I think it's crazy, and I'm the one it happened to. But we never thought this was due to a Bigfoot. And honestly, if I had a camera on me back then, I wouldn't even have bothered taking pics of the area. I can't explain it. Something felt off. But nothing felt wrong, if that makes any sense to you at all. We continued hunting that area each spring for years to come until the land was... We continued hunting that area each spring for years to come until the land was sold, and now is private property. Aside from this, we never had any other experience in that area. It never dawned on me that it could have been a Sasquatch trying to cover his tracks by ripping up the tall grass. And what makes it even creepier is that if this was a Sasquatch, it had to have seen us checking out his tracks that day we first seen them. Anyways, that's what happened. That day you can share my name if you want. It's Andrew Jones. Also, real quick, just want to say thanks for being a badass. This world needs more people like you. Stay safe out there, and believe it or not, you're pretty popular in New York. I've introduced your channel to a bunch of people. Thank you for the content, and F all the haters. Sincerely, Andrew. Right there with you, brother. Appreciate the kind words and words of encouragement. Absolutely. That sounds odd. I've never followed a trackway myself yet. I've never gone looking Well, no, I looked intentionally a lot of years ago, but each time I found tracks, I just kind of looked, tried taking a couple pictures before and shrugged it off and left. I'm out of here, whatever. I know you're here. But I myself, I'm not familiar with them covering up their tracks that way. It doesn't surprise me at all. If that's what they're doing. What do we got here? Oops, hold on a minute. Okay, I'm going to mark this as red. Another one. There's hundreds. Hundreds. 5 years later. Thousands, actually. There's thousands. 5 years later, there's thousands of emails left to be read, and they come in every day. Excuse me. I'm a 55-year-old former Marine. I've listened, watched, and read, and tried to be very observant of my surroundings at all times. I'm not one of those guys that thinks every combination of leaves and branches that look like a face is actually a face. Steve, your senses are correct, and so are mine. Something big is coming. I have researched angels, fallen angels, Nephilim, aliens, giants, UFOs, politics, conspiracy theories, and most things paranormal. That does not mean I believe every crazy story out there. But pieces of all this research seem to be coming together for me. I've had both good and bad ghostly experiences. As the Nephilim story goes, the Bible talks about fallen angels mating with human women, thus giving us giants. It seems that these fallen angels were very attracted to humans, and it has something to do with our hair. Hair acts as our antenna for connecting with heavenly beings. Is this why most religions make people cover their hair, especially women? Hitler had 3 or 4 long-haired, and I mean down to the floor, long-haired women. They would hold seances in a cave to talk with bad spirits to ask for direction for Hitler and his cronies during World War II. I'm a godly man and have come to realize that God lets us make our own decisions. Us meaning man, angel, alien, etc., etc. My job requires me to drive many hours a day in areas with bad, if any, radio reception, so I listen to scientific, paranormal, political, or religious/spiritual shows from my iPhone. One story in particular stuck out to me in a way that I think you will find interesting as well. A very religious man was visited by an angel in his hotel room. He described the angel as a huge warrior-type male about 9 feet tall with very large hands and feet, carrying a shield and a sword. And he was able to use telepathy to bring him a message. Steve, for a minute there, I thought he was describing a sasquatch, but then I remembered that I was listening to a show about angels. My theory is that some of these fallen angels may have changed their mind or had second thoughts about following Lucifer, but unfortunately now are stuck between heaven and hell with us on earth. Out of favor with God and out of favor with Lucifer, and being they are so heavenly charged, their hair grows long all over their bodies while they are physically manifested in Earth's atmosphere because hair acts as an antenna to God. This would explain why they can cloak or teleport/disappear. Amazingly strong, fast. Would also explain why some seem pissed off but don't kill us because they still fear God and we are made in God's image. The main reason for this email is that this explains why they are kept a secret. If exposed, then all the Darwinist teachings would be debunked. God is real after all, heaven is real, hell is real. We've been lied to by a very small group of very wealthy people who own the media, own governments and agencies, and have infiltrated every aspect of our lives. Those people want to keep us uninformed, dumb, divided by race, religion, rich, poor. They keep us busy with wars, entertainment, sports, or whatever they think of to occupy our time until we die. And it just gets easier and easier with every passing generation. What's wrong with kids nowadays was said by us, our parents, and their parents, and so on and so on. Steve, something big and glorious is coming, and it all hinges on the re-election of Donald John Trump. He and the remaining good, untainted militaries around the world are going to uncover it all. There will be mass arrests and military tribunals at Gitmo. You, Steve, are in tune with this because you haven't lost your senses. Your senses have not been numbed down and desensitized by all this because you're out and away from all the bullshit they have created that keeps people watching TV and chasing cares. There is a great awakening coming. And the best part is we win. God wins. And this world is about to get a whole lot better. We first have to get through this period of darkness with no fear. Burn our stupid masks and fight for our rights before we will see this amazing light. It's coming, and nothing can stop it. So smile and take a deep breath and know that we win. God bless you, Steve. You are amazing, and what you're doing is so helpful to people who have nowhere or no one to turn to. Semper Fi. Do or die. A Marine Corps. Hoorah. Regards, Ron Meyer. Appreciate you, Ron. Appreciate your share, your words of encouragement, your honesty. Something big is coming. I hope it is good, because right now I haven't a clue what's going to come first. I do know, what was the headline today? Today is September 12th, 2024, and to one of today's headlines from a source I feel are credible was that the United States and Britain were making a very large military move against Russia. Absolute freaking morons, right? And for all those that don't want to hear it, don't want to know about it, and don't want to hear it or talk about it, you're possibly one of the largest to blame for it, if that's the case, right? That's how they get away with doing all this shit. Conditioning the people to not want to talk about it. Oh man, we don't want to talk about this shit. Really? Well, just wait till you hear the rockets flying over your house. It's going to interrupt your reality TV show, right? It's coming. It's coming. Hope you're prepared. It's coming. Now, stay on track, because I could go off on that topic and more, but I'm getting more convinced these days that if you are aware, you're aware by now, and I'm not going to be able to do much to make anybody else aware at this stage of the game. It's gone so far and so deep. If you haven't been observing what's going on at this stage of the game, you're not even in the parking lot of the frickin' stadium yet. Right? Sadly. One more, you guys. Steve, thanks for the platform you give us to share and learn from one another. I have a fairly long story, so I'll try my best to condense it. Also, please pardon my punctuation. As I was probably hunting or fishing those days, I should have been in English class. No, you shouldn't have. This happened in 1984. We live in the mountains of northeast Tennessee. Myself and 3 other teens and 2 medium to large-sized dogs were camping in the woods a good distance from our homes. We constructed a fairly nice and sturdy shelter over the period of a week in late August of that year. We were set up and having a great time joking around as such around 11 p.m. when our younger friends heard noises coming from behind the shelter we built. They told us that we need to get out of here, saying they didn't feel good about being there. Our dogs began whimpering and throwing their noses in the air and acting very frightened, when all at once, a loud gibberish and moaning type scream came from behind us. All we could do was run. And let me just say, the trees and briars were not an obstacle. We only ran through them, or bounced off them. We were bloodied and bruised from head to toe by the time we got to the nearest house. We were standing at the wood line when we then noticed there were only 3 of us, and 1 dog, our Alaskan Husky. She was barking toward the woods and pacing back and forth. We yelled frantically for our friend as we were scared that whatever it was had our friend. And after about a minute, he came out of the woods carrying his dog in his arms. Both were visibly frightened. Our friend told us that whatever had followed him till he heard us and came into view of the street light at the house we came to. The porch light to the house we ran to then came on, and the lady that lived there came to the door asking what was going on. We told her as best we could what had happened to us. She told us to get in the house and go downstairs so we could stay there for the night. I think I read this a long time ago. Oops. As we were sitting in, her daughter upstairs screamed, and we all went back upstairs. She was telling her mother that a noise came from the back porch, and when she went to the door to look out, she had seen a large naked man walking back into the woods. We didn't know what to think. The lady then called the sheriff's department and her husband, as he was working nights at the time. The deputies that showed up and questioned us about what had happened looked around the house and into the woods and told us it was probably someone pranking us. We knew better. The next day, We back to the campsite with the lady's husband to collect our gear. Our campsite was a total wreck. The structure we nailed into the tree was ripped out and completely torn apart. Our gear was thrown everywhere. And the place absolutely smelled nasty. We had brought 2 firearms with us, and they were not touched and still against the tree we had placed them. Years after this, I never gave it much thought. And 3 years later, at 17, I joined the U.S. Army and was later stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington. I would often fish the Nisqually River or Puget Sound. I loved the area. I never had an encounter in the 3.5 years I was there. It was later, after my enlistment and back in Tennessee, I began researching Bigfoot, and when I came upon the Oregon Bigfoot website, that I had found Bigfoot sound files. Nothing rang a bell until I heard the Ron Moorhead recordings and what has been known as samurai chatter. The next loud gibberish we heard that night camping as teens, it made the hair stand up all over me. Sorry, the exact loud gibberish we heard that night camping as teens, it made the hair stand up all over me. I also heard the moaning type scream roar in the next sound file. I was freaked out, to say the least. Anyway, that's my story. Thanks for letting me share, Steve. Thanks for writing in. Thanks for your time and your honesty. And I believe I read that a while back. Maybe. Or maybe not. I just remember the part about a lady letting kids in to escape the terror. Terror. What the hell? I'm going to read one more. All right? One more. Hey, Steve. Firstly, thank you for your courage in grasping and running with this topic. History may prove that you've been instrumental in enlightening populations to what our governments have attempted to hide for decades. It may change the way many of us view politics and the world, for sure. Many ordinary people like me look beyond the information we're fed, which is only ever based on current knowledge. And again, history clearly shows us all that there is a significant lag between what is seen and what is understood. In the latter part of my 64 years, I've developed an interest in areas of the unknown, aided like so many by the emergence of information sharing technology in the last 3 decades. I have had an interest in this particular subject after I stumbled across Scott Carpenter's Truth Denied. And I've been a subscriber to Scott, Dave, and your channel ever since. Whilst there's many channels who cover this topic, yours stands out like a beacon. So many others seem to just roll stories around the block again and again, only interested in raising their own profile without really considering the impact of the many life-changing events as consequence of the cover-up by governments. Unlike many contributors to your channel, hunters in particular, I've never hunted or spent time in the wilderness. My name is John Knowles, and in fact, I live in the UK, so our exposure to any sort of wilderness is probably confined to the Highlands of Scotland. My brief experience, whilst unlike the physical evidence seen by many who watch your channel, may be considered as insignificant by others, but was very significant to me and my wife. Last September, my son was married in Las Vegas, and my wife and I thought it would be a great opportunity to have a trip to Canada afterwards. We flew up to Calgary and picked up an SUV for a trip to Banff, Jasper, Sun Peaks, and Vancouver. It was never our intention to go find Sasquatch, and after all, what would be the chance? What would be the chance be in a continent where many have spent all their lives in the outdoors and never seen anything out untoward? We merely wanted to appreciate the vast territory that can harbor such a creature, whose evolution requires that it should largely avoid contact with Homo sapiens in order to survive. We took a detour en route from Banff to Jasper, following the David Thompson Highway towards Nordegg. Thanks to satellite imagery, I haphazardly picked a gravel track off the main highway towards Crescent Falls Recreation Area. We chuckled at Abraham Lake as we drove past a sign with a cartoon Bigfoot saying, "Welcome to our backyard." Just a couple of miles on the gravel track from the main highway, we pulled into a parking area next to a viewpoint overlooking the river in the deep canyon, thinking we're at least somewhere off the beaten track. We were a bit disappointed to see a yellow school bus parked there. So much for our off-the-beaten-track idea. However, the kids were just leaving, so we would at least have some peace and quiet. We trekked for a while along the footpath, amazed by the beauty of this peaceful place, and upon returning to the parking area and emboldened by the recent purchase of some bear spray, I managed to persuade my wife to head into the deeper woods, and we spotted a trail leading off the gravel road. Just a few yards into the woods, we were surprised to see a pair of orange Y-fronts carefully placed in the middle of the narrow trail. Y-fronts, that's underwear, gaunch, whatever you want to call it. I laughed and said, I don't think we're in the wilderness yet. No more than 100 yards further along the trail, I spotted a strange pattern of trees some 20 yards off to the right. It was tough going underfoot just getting there, but when we did, we were shocked. A 25-foot tree had been completely bent over and its top thrust deeply into the forest floor. So deep that it wasn't going to spring back. I heaved on it but couldn't move it at all. It must have been pushed in at least 2 feet. Underneath was this teepee of several smaller trees about 6 inches in diameter and 10 feet in length. The ends that I could see had been snapped off. More amazingly was a 20-foot tree, 6 inches in diameter, that had been threaded through the arc and the teepee, perfectly horizontal and several feet off the ground. It was very rough going underfoot, with deadfall and thick moss, but no obvious sign of disturbance. I was so engrossed by this that I got my camera out and struggled to move around the site taking photographs. My wife was about 15 yards away when she said, "Quick, did you hear that growl? Let's get out of here now." I was so absorbed in taking photos I thought that the sound was someone nearby trying to unsuccessfully start a chainsaw, but there's only one pull and it never started. In an instant, the world changed from, "Wow, look at this," to "Get the F out of here." We never saw or looked at anything, only concentrating on heading back to the SUV ASAP, and we didn't hang around to find out. As unsuspecting tourists, we were both shocked and surprised at the sequence of events. I suppose the moral of the story is, be careful what you wish for. There you go. Welcome to Canada, right? Where's the pictures? I guess, a lot of people are going to be saying, where's the photos? Share the photos. I'm good myself, but if you want to share them, I'm sure there's going to be a handful of people that are interested and want to see them, right? Anyway. It's a handful of more voices heard. Where's the bottom of this? When you say, how are we going to get to the bottom of this? Where is the bottom? Where is the actual bottom? Is it nearby? Is it way down deep? Is it unobtainable? I know what I'm leaning towards. I don't know what everybody else is leaning towards, but man, there's some stuff coming down the pipe towards us all, and there's no way of avoiding it. And in the short time, in the immediate future, it's going to have a much larger impact than any of these emails or any of these videos I share on here, without a doubt. I hope it's not true, but it's not looking good, right? It's not looking good for global war, serious war. Very serious, when all the big powers decide to go at each other because of a small handful of absolutely fucked up individuals that should probably all be eliminated right now to save many people. They should have been eliminated a long time ago to save a lot of people. But anyway, that's another topic, I guess. But that's a topic that's going between my ears non-stop lately. Non-stop. Anyway, share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you're going to get your truth shared. Word for word. Get it to me. Get it shared. What else? Sarah's stickers or hats and t-shirts. I think she's still got a handful of each left. I made her take a nap because we're not caught up in sleep yet, and I made her get up at 4:45 this morning and go for a big hike. But she's got all this stuff in her store. She'll be shipping tomorrow, I believe. I just had my tech geeks just got a hold of me, and they updated my hunting app, so they function smooth. That's exciting. I'm going to have to start sharing the links to those, because all it is my years of knowledge and others crammed into an app that functions without the internet, and you can take all of my knowledge with you hunting. All right? And others. Very helpful. I've had literally hundreds of success emails sent to me due to my knowledge shared with a lot of hunters around the world through my app platform I come up with like 8 years ago or something. So that's updated. If I think about it, I'll put a link in the bottom. All sorts of stuff is available. I just never really think about it at the end. But anyway, I'm going to get moving on. I'm going to be back tomorrow, guaranteed. I'm going to share more. Hopefully I'm going to catch up on my sleep. And we have around 8 days here before we venture to the north yet again. There you go. What am I going to do now? I'm going to message John B. See if John wants to come on here. Remember to message the person who left us a message with their phone number. We'll see what they want to talk to us about. Get it all shared and get that ball rolling. Keep everybody talking freely, openly, word for word. I appreciate all of you. I pray for all of your safety and health. Always. We always pray for everyone's safety and health, no matter what. Later.